Hey everybody, how's it going? Aaron Rift here from NoDQ.com to talk about Shawn Michaels WrestleMania matches from worst to best. This is my rankings of the Shawn Michaels WrestleMania matches, and he is arguably the greatest performer in WrestleMania history, hence the name Mr. WrestleMania. Shawn Michaels has had more show-stealing moments at WrestleMania than just about anybody, arguably. So let's take a look at his matches here. Let's start at the bottom. And there wasn't really a bad Shawn Michaels WrestleMania match. I mean, in my opinion, if I had to say what the worst match would be, it would be Shawn Michaels versus El Matador at WrestleMania 8, only because it was essentially a squash match to establish Shawn Michaels as an upcoming heel. He had just turned on Marty Jannetty, the infamous moment when he threw Jannetty through the barbershop window. And this was a match to showcase Shawn Michaels as a heel. And there was really nothing to it. It was just a very basic match. And Shawn Michaels won and got the win. So, it was just a match. But even the worst Shawn Michaels match was still better than a lot of WWE WrestleMania matches at the time. Next up, we have Shawn Michaels versus Tatanka, which was a year later at WrestleMania 9. Once again, nothing really wrong with this match. It was the opener at WrestleMania 9. And, it was just your average Intercontinental title match. Nothing really stood out about it, but it wasn't horrible either. Moving on here, we have a series of Shawn Michaels matches with Marty Jannetty when they were the Rockers. These were the early Shawn Michaels appearances at WrestleMania. The first would be Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, the Rockers, against the Twin Towers at WrestleMania 5. And then a year later, you had Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty against the Orient Express. And then a year after that, WrestleMania 7, you had the Rockers versus Haku and Barbarian. All decent matches. The Rockers were always entertaining in the ring, doing their thing. And nothing really wrong with any of these matches. Moving on to WrestleMania 11, Shawn Michaels challenging Diesel for the world title. HBK was really coming into his own at this point as a major superstar. And, he carried Diesel to one of the best matches of Diesel's career. I think the biggest negative of this match was the fact that Shawn didn't win. And, a lot of fans in the arena wanted to see Shawn win, and they were actually cheering him over Diesel. But it didn't happen. We didn't get that moment. Fans would have to wait another year for that. Next up, Shawn Michaels versus Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 14. Actually, this was not one of HBK's better WrestleMania performances, and he was hurting really bad to his credit. He really sucked it up and went out there and put over Steve Austin, and this would end up being his last match for over 4 years. So, you have to look at it that way, that, HBK was hurt, he was in bad shape, but he still went out there and did the match and got knocked out by Mike Tyson, and that's really what's significant about this match, the historical value that it had, the fact that it was the beginning of the Austin era and the end of the Shawn Michaels era, at least for the time being. Shawn Michaels versus Mr. McMahon at WrestleMania 22 in Chicago. Possibly the best match that Vince McMahon was ever in. Going in, I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't really have high hopes for this match, but Shawn Michaels delivered, and he got a very entertaining match out of Vince McMahon, and it was really fun to watch, and I enjoyed it, a lot, and I thought it was one of the best matches of the night, and that's saying a lot when you consider the fact that Vince is not an active wrestler, and Shawn was able to make it gold. So a lot of credit to Shawn Michaels in this one. Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair. The retirement match for Ric Flair at WrestleMania 24. Technically, it was disappointing. I mean, Ric Flair could only do so much, and it was a little bit of a letdown in that regard, but it was still a very significant match in WWE history and very emotional. That finish was just incredible. Ric Flair continuing to fight, and Shawn Michaels says, "I'm sorry, I love you," and then he super kicks him, and then immediately embraces Flair. That was one of the all-time classic WrestleMania moments, and because of that, it's ranked higher than some of these other matches. All right, next up, Shawn Michaels versus John Cena at WrestleMania 23. This was one of John Cena's best WrestleMania matches, and this was the main event, and it delivered. Shawn Michaels went out there and gave his usual great WrestleMania performance, and John Cena held his own. And, it was really good stuff with these two. Next up, Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 12, the Iron Man match. Now, some people might be wondering why this isn't higher on the list. In my opinion, this match was a little bit overrated. I think that on paper, these guys having an Iron Man match sounds like a good idea, but to me, it really dragged on, and the crowd wasn't into it all that much. And for me, it didn't really pick up until like the last 15 minutes. They had a lot of rest holds, and it was just very slow paced. And I was never a huge fan of that match. But I mean, those guys really, I can't go in there and do an Iron Man match. So they deserve the credit for being able to have that conditioning and go out there and perform for that period of time. But just me personally, not one of my top matches. But I know a lot of people like that one anyways. Next up, Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 19. Really good match. This was Shawn Michaels' first match, and this was his first match after coming back from injury at WrestleMania. And this was just an incredible match between these two. Really good stuff, and no real complaints. I mean, I love the storyline going in. And, they went out there and they delivered an awesome match. So, not much else can be said about it. Love the storyline, and love the finish where Jericho, hugged Shawn Michaels and then turned on him. I thought that was great. Next up, Shawn Michaels versus Triple H and Chris Benoit. I guess I could say Benoit now since he's featured on the WWE Network and they're not censoring him. So this was a triple threat match, WrestleMania 20. Excellent match. All three guys brought their A game, and this was significant for being Chris Benoit's first world title victory in WWE. And love this match, just incredible. Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels 2. This is the second match, the one at WrestleMania 26. This was Shawn Michaels' retirement match. In my opinion, it was just a slight step down from the first Shawn Michaels Undertaker WrestleMania match, but still a classic, and love the storyline that was told in the match. Shawn Michaels, similar to Ric Flair 2 years earlier, was putting up the fight of his life, and Undertaker had to put him down and finish him off and did the jumping tombstone. And Shawn Michaels got his big send-off, and what a way to end his career with this match. And now to the top three Shawn Michaels matches at WrestleMania. And it's really close for me with these three. I mean, you could make an argument for any of these three being number one. But my number three would be Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle, WrestleMania 21. I was there in person at Staples Center, and to this date, that was still the best match I've ever seen in person. Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle stole the show. That was the best match of the night. Should have been the main event. Those guys just had an incredible match, and it was back and forth. You had the drama, you had the submission holds going back and forth, you had the near falls. Just a perfect match, really. I mean, there's nothing negative I can say about this match. I mean, if I had to criticize it, I couldn't. I mean, it was just that damn good with these two, and both of them were at the very top of their games. Number two, and this one is ranked higher than the Kurt Angle match because of its historical significance. I mean, as great as Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle was, it didn't really change the industry all that much. But this match, Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon at WrestleMania 10, this was a match that changed WWE as we knew it. These guys went out there, and I think that this was the best WrestleMania match up to this point. And, it was groundbreaking for the time. A ladder match on a major WWE pay-per-view, and Shawn Michaels taking these incredible bumps, and Razor Ramon for that matter. I don't think that Razor gets enough credit for this match. I think that, he held his own, but, Shawn Michaels was, really stepping into his own and becoming a major superstar, and he stole the show here. This was the best match at WrestleMania, and a match that to this day you can still watch and be entertained by it. I mean, it's still, you could compare this match with any match of today, and it still holds up. I mean, that's how great it was. And finally, the number one Shawn Michaels match at WrestleMania. Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, the first one at WrestleMania 25. Like the Kurt Angle match, there's really nothing I can say that's critical of this match. I mean, it was just perfect in every way. These guys went out there, and up until that match, I was disappointed with WrestleMania 25. I felt that it was really lackluster, but then all of a sudden, I'm on the edge of my seat for this match, and the streak was on the line, and these guys just told a great story in the ring. They didn't need any gimmicks other than the streak. They just went out there and had a great wrestling match, and to me, that match by itself made that WrestleMania, no question. And I felt like I got my money's worth with that match. So I mean, that's how much of an impact it made on me. And I always say to people out there that might want to get into wrestling, study that match. Watch what those guys do. I mean, those guys are true pros. So there you have it. My thoughts on the Shawn Michaels WrestleMania matches. Let me know what you think, what you agree with, what you disagree with, and stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest in WWE and TNA.